This video is going to be my reaction to the Ravens' 26-23 loss to the Raiders in Baltimore on Sunday afternoon. It certainly seems ridiculous to begin my reaction video with anything related to a Lombardi trophy after the Ravens dropped to 0-2, but Living Legend has supported me for a couple of years on Patreon and YouTube, and so I want to always try to expose his music to a larger audience. I'm going to analyze the game and get to some specific complaints later about decision making and game management, which has kind of been a theme for the last 2 or 3 years. Occasionally, at times, maybe once or twice a year, it becomes a larger issue. At times, it's just bubbling there below the surface. Despite some of my own frustration in terms of that game management decision making, like I said, I'll reserve specific complaints till later. But I think that look, the O-line struggles are obvious, and they'll be discussed ad nauseum and already are on social media and in our Discord as Ravens fans, and that's a big deal. I think I spoke maybe Wednesday or Thursday night with Cole Jackson, Mike Crawford, Coach Evans from Sip to Tally, and I said, hey, I think that we've got to address it from outside the building unless Ben Cleveland can help us out and Rosengarten can play better. It certainly appears that Rosengarten is better than Macari at this point. Right guard, I don't know what the heck we do. And it is an issue. I think that it's possible that the lack of awareness from the people in charge is perhaps a bigger problem. And I'm talking about the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator. And you maybe weren't expecting me to add in that last element there because the Raiders did only produce 260 yards of offense. I thought all three guys, Harbaugh, Monken, and Zach Orr, came up short today at different times in what I think is their professional responsibility. Get to the game a little bit. I think Derrick Henry said it best. The Raiders were better overall over the course of a 60-minute football game. But I think the Ravens are the more talented team. Yes, I do. But the Raiders' defense is legit. They played extremely tough. They played faster. Overall, they deserve to win. Even though they only gained, I think, 261 yards of offense to be precise. They had one rushing first down. And in the first half, the first 30 minutes of play only averaged 1.7 yards per play. It's kind of amazing. I would understand if people say that this game reminded them of the Colts from 2023, week 3 at home. Same point in the season, pretty much. The Ravens had a lead there, I think 19-16 with 2 minutes left and then fell apart, basically. Today, same thing. 10-point lead early in the fourth quarter at 23-13 and then 23-16. Really egregious defensive calls on the game-tying touchdown drive by the Raiders. I'm talking about from Zach Orr. And the crazy thing is about blowing the 10-point lead, we had produced 2 touchdowns in the second half. Our 6th possession and our 7th possession, and our 9th possession, sandwiched around an interception. And then we just fall apart. It seems like sometimes this Ravens team, I'm talking about 2022, 2023, and this year, seems like sometimes this team falls apart when the opponent keeps punching and doesn't just fold up in the corner. And that doesn't sound fun to say. Probably isn't cool for you to hear it. Maybe it's not a great combat sports analogy, but I can think of multiple games where the Ravens look like the better team for a quarter and a half or maybe 2.5 quarters, and then a team just kept fighting back, and we ended up blowing it. The Giants on the road, 2022, a game that we should have won. The Steelers last year, week 5. The Colts, week 3 at home last year. This game against the Raiders, who deserve credit. I don't want to take anything away from them, but I get it. If you draw more similarities to week 3 last year against the Colts at home, I understand. I mean, Minshew was the quarterback for both of those games, meaning the Colts 22-19 win in week 3, and then this 26-23 win that puts the Ravens at 0-2. It's an unusual place. I'm going to tell you, it almost reminds me more so of the home loss to the Browns last year in 2023, where we think we are so much better than someone and are in control, and then suddenly our defense can't stop an offense that is reduced to pretty much only throwing the football. And that's what happened today. The Raiders did not produce anything consistently rushing. I think 27 yards rushing, and nonetheless, we got carved up defensively. That's Zach Orr's deal. That's his deal. That's the defensive staff's job, especially when you're one-dimensional. That's what you want. I'm not saying that I have the answer, certainly, but I thought Harbaugh was bad today in some of the challenges, clearly. Monken made some poor decisions from a tactical standpoint. The end of second corner management continues to be an issue again, and we'll get back to that a little bit later. Actually, but the offense and defense dynamic is so crazy. It's like they traded off at halftime. First half offense very inconsistent. In our Discord, we're complaining about the offense the whole time the first half, while our defense held the Raiders to, like I said, 1.7 yards per play. Gardner Minshew was 14 of 16 throwing in the first half, so above 90%, obviously, but only 39 yards for passing is unbelievable. You would think that at some point the Raiders are going to test us downfield, and they did. The offense for the Ravens wakes up. Two great drives, one to open the third quarter, then the interception, and then the drive that bridged the third and fourth quarter that puts us up 23-13. And then it was Orr's turn. I'm going to mention the specific defensive play call that I really can't stand. It's the third and goal from the 17. It's at about the 4-minute mark of the fourth quarter. We're still ahead 23-16. I think it's unconscionable. At that point in time, Davante Adams has been a problem in the second half for us, particularly on their left side against Brandon Stevens. Okay, fine. You kind of knew that could be a matchup that they could win. If you didn't, I don't know what we were, paying attention to. But from a coaching standpoint, Minshew was relying on Adams or Bowers. That's it. Look at the stats and you can see it. Third and goal from the 17. We're ahead 23-16. It would be great to hold them to a field goal, right? 23-19. Or don't let them get close enough such that they go for it on fourth and goal from the 4 or something like that. Make it be fourth and goal from the 6 or the 7. The refs called the DPI on Stevens in the end zone. Do I think those two guys are just competing? On some level, I do, yes. It looked like they were both grabbing, making contact with each other. So I don't know whether that's a justified call or not. We really saw maybe one replay of it. I'm charting, so I'm trying to keep an eye on the screen and type over on the other screen, so they called it. What I'm more interested in, though, is the fact that apparently nobody on the Ravens defensive staff thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't leave Stevens over there with Adams. It was the backside of a 3-by-1 formation. I thought there's no leverage help at all for him. I do think there's times where you need to look at a 3-man rush or a delayed 4th-man rush. Try to give help underneath. I thought, hey, you can tell me what you saw. When the ball's thrown in the end zone, I didn't think it was a laser of a throw. I thought it was somewhat lofted. Not high arcing, I wouldn't describe it that way. But when the ball arrives, I didn't think I saw anyone within 6 or 7 or 8 yards of Stevens and Adams. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was someone closer than that. My point is, I think that we should be looking at helping on that particular matchup on third and goal from the 17. And if you don't agree, that's fine. I don't want to argue necessarily, but let me push the ball back 10 yards. Let's say it's third and goal from the 27. What's your strategy? Where is the yard line that's third and goal when you're ahead by 7 with 4 minutes left, such that you're willing to say, I don't have to get a sack here. What I need to do is make sure Davante Adams, or they don't give some BS pass interference penalty, or questionable at best, I guess, that gives them the ball on the 1. And, of course, they score on the next play. Yes, I blame Zach Orr and the defensive staff for that. Todd Monken, some of the decisions he made, just as confusing, if you ask me. Again, the Raiders are a tough team. They play hard on defense. They deserve credit, but I don't think they're a good football team compared to where the Ravens want to go. And let me do it this way, not with the way their O-line pass pros. I think we had 5 sacks. Their lack of run game. And I think their offensive design is very inconsistent at best and sometimes extremely slow developing. And it worked today for them. From a Ravens standpoint, that's what disappoints me the most because the reality is the Ravens aren't a good football team right now. They're not. We had 5 sacks on defense. We had 10 TFLs. Yes, we outgained the Raiders by 120 yards. I don't think that's a very well-designed offense over there for real. I think we averaged 5.6 or 5.7 yards per play, but we're called for 11 penalties. We just found a way to lose. And that's what bad football teams do. Did the penalties have an impact from the standpoint of shading the game? Maybe. That's possible. I'm not sure how I can describe it. There's probably a wide array of opinions on it. Do I wonder what's going on with the refs over the course of 2 games? Yes. In terms of us being overly penalized. I don't know what it is. over the course of the two games, but I do know that we were called for illegal formation multiple times against the Chiefs, and in fact, I think two of them were declined. So there were a certain number that were accepted, and then a certain number that were declined and don't go down as actual penalties recorded. So whatever that number was, I thought it could have been two more. 11 penalties this week, some of which are questionable, a few that are egregious, and I think kind of call into question the integrity of the game in terms of the balance between offensive receivers and defensive backs, secondary guys down the field. I'm fine with saying the Raiders played better over the course of 60 minutes. I am. But the reality is the refs, some of these calls, the DPI on Humphrey down the right sideline, okay, fine. Another one on Stevens in the end zone that I talked about a moment ago. If that's the way the NFL wants it, if they don't want really anyone to compete back there, if that's the standard, so be it. Let's see how it plays out over the course of 15 games. Well, 15 more for the Ravens at this point, and if and when it balances out and gets back to the Ravens' favor. But a couple of more penalties that I think are noteworthy, and I don't know necessarily whether these drives finished in scores in every case. The face mask on Matabike is obvious that it's not a face mask, but Ojabo's hit thereafter probably could have been called on the same exact play. A couple that are just non-existent, phantom, if you will. The kickoff on Chris Board, I may have missed it. They did show one replay from like the end zone angle. Maybe does Board fall on him late? I couldn't tell when I watched it. It didn't look like it was late to me. Maybe something happened thereafter. It goes down as a 15-yard penalty. Gave the Raiders the ball, I think, on the negative 48 or negative 47. So pretty much right at midfield. It didn't look like there was much that I saw, unless something happened thereafter that they didn't show on the broadcast. Stanley's hold on the 9-yard run by Henry into the boundary was very surprising. We got a clear seam there. Henry's going downhill. I think he ran well today when he had opportunity. Finished with 84, 85 yards. It was one of the first times that the O-line was able to give him some space or a lane, and he took advantage. And then the penalty pushes us right back. I don't know about you at that point. It's like, what is going on here? But if you look at the flow of the game here, it's possible to say we're a poorly coached football team, and poorly coached football teams usually are the ones that get the most penalties. That could be part of the explanation. I don't know. First half, if you watch the first half, and at this point I've watched most of the first half again to see, what are the Raiders doing offensively that we can't handle? Well, they're in 12 personnel oftentimes in the first half. Second half was pretty much all 11 personnel. Especially the two drives when they're able to pretty much zip right downfield on us. Two teams combined, I think, in the first quarter for 38 yards of offense. The Raiders' defense looked incredibly fast, particularly the guys from the second level. To that point in the first quarter, I think Owe had 2 sacks. Ojabo and Roquan Smith had a quarterback pressure. Crosby had a sack against Macari. He was really eating Macari up. He also had a TFL or maybe 2 more. Ravens just got nothing going offensively in the first quarter. I think Henry had 3 carries for negative yards total in the first quarter. My notes were the Ravens got to figure out a way to loosen up this defense somehow because direct run plays were not working, meaning no counter action. Running in the path that the offensive line and the running back are both going, direct flow, was not working because the Raiders react fast and are physical. Defensively, we had some trouble with fast motion early. Little snag concept that, we run a lot on our offense. Shocking to me that we don't have a way to deal with it defensively because the Raiders ran it twice, consecutive plays, in fact, in the first quarter. And were able to get snag completions to, I think, Devontae Adams, both cases. One of them was a 9-yard gain on a 1st and 10, and I think one of them was a 4-yard gain on a 3rd and 2. Ojabo looked impactful early to me. He looks great, if you ask me. I thought the Ravens missed a really great opportunity in the second quarter when they end up punting. Crosby had just gotten a tackle for loss on a run concept. We have a 3rd down throw to Andrews that's just too high. Maybe Andrews slows up a little bit, but that throw is... I think Lamar's moving or sliding forward in the pocket, so it's not a settled situation if I recall correctly. But it's unfortunate that we can't make the connection, regardless of how high it was. It looked considerably high. Andrews was wide open over the linebacker level. Raiders are eventually able to tie it, throwing the football a lot, not having 0 success running the ball. In fact, a 3rd and 3 run concept, I think Travis Jones and Matabike just blow it up, hold them to a long field goal. We go up 6-3. I thought it was poor management to end the second quarter. And here's where I'll start a little bit of my complaints. It's a 3rd and 8 from our 38. Maybe 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the second quarter. I could be wrong on the timing there. And we're up 6-3. We finished the half up 9-6. But looking at the situation, we're getting the ball to start the third quarter. Now, I'm not talking about the way that it worked out. Right? I'm talking about the global strategy that we use in those situations. I have maintained for a couple of years in some of these situations, we should try to create a more high percentage field goal opportunity. Well, now we're looking at a situation where Tucker has missed so many long field goals. This one, I think, was a 56-yarder. What is his percentage from 48 yards and in? It's a 3rd and 8. If we can get it to 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2 and increase his efficiency level, why am I advocating for that? Because we get the ball to start the third quarter. And at that point in time, it didn't finish this way in the second half, but at that point in time, our defense is absolutely dominating their offense. It's entirely possible that if we get a field goal there, I'm talking about the incomplete pass to Aguilar up the left sideline. It's a nice throw by Lamar, I thought. I thought he dropped it in there from a location and timing standpoint. Aguilar looked like he was clear by, a step or something. It's a great play by Jacorian Bennett, who's from Maryland, by the way, in terms of University of Maryland. So it's a great play there. I'm saying, hey, we have a kicker who's got reduced accuracy from 52 or 50 yards plus. Let's put him in a 47, 48-yard situation that I think he's still got 92, 93, whatever the percent is accuracy from. Maybe you don't like that strategy, but with the way our defense was playing, I think we need points at that juncture, at that moment. And that's been consistent. We have had those difficulties with those 2-for-1 situations. We've had times where we turn the ball over on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, instead of getting 3, 4, 5 more yards and just taking the field goal. Perhaps you don't like that, and that's fine. It did end up working out in terms of us holding, I think, a 9-6 advantage at the half. But with us having the ability to double up to open the third quarter, which we did, I think that we leave points out on the field, and we have a reduced percentage of actually scoring to finish the second quarter. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. Maybe it didn't change this game, but that's a game management thing that I think we consistently are wrong on. Well, let's do it this way. We consistently leave points out there because on those 3rd and 8s, those 3rd and 7s, late in the second quarter, we oftentimes don't complete the pass. So regardless of what someone says, oh, it could turn out this way, we actually don't get points. And I would like to see a higher percentage field goal opportunity, especially now that we're missing so many of them from 50 yards plus. I feel like this has been an issue from 2022, 2023 onward. We've been fighting an uphill battle, if you ask me, in some of those spots. Not the game management, the strategy from the coaching staff, in my opinion, is lacking in those situations at times. I understand maybe you don't agree. First half, I thought Lamar threw the ball really well. Like I said, the throw to Aguilar was there. Great play by Bennett. Lamar's 14 of 22 for 161. We finally started chipping Crosby on the last 2 drives of the second quarter, and that happened to be when Rosengarten came in. And look, did Rosengarten do a couple of good things? Yes, he did against him compared to Macari, who was getting eaten alive. First half, Flowers had 6 catches for 83 yards. Flowers also had a 9-yard catch to get us into field goal range late in the second quarter, the additional second quarter possession that we had. Raiders totally shut down the Ravens' run game to that point. I think we were at 11 carries for 19 yards, and that included an 8-yard scramble by Lamar late in the second quarter. So they're fast defensively. They respond to direct flow, very aggressive. They're fun to watch. They're not fun to watch today because they came in and beat our ass. So I get it, but they pursue, they tackle well. It's a relentless defense over there. I think Likely broke 1 tackle, maybe 2 on the day. Henry had a catch where he broke a tackle. He also stiff-armed a guy and looked really good, particularly into the boundary. But for the most part, the Raiders came in and tackled us in open field. As an aside, neither team in the first half had a rushing first down, which is kind of crazy. The teams only combined for 12 first downs in the first 30 minutes. Minshew, like I said, was 14 of 16, but they were averaging less than 2 yards per play. Going to look at, this is the drive after my complaint when I think we should be looking to move the ball into field goal range, particularly with the way that our defense was playing. The Raiders, we missed the field goal, Tucker. The Raiders come down, tie it at 6, and then we get the ball down here and tie it on a Tucker field goal to finish the half. I think that Andrews on this 3rd and 7 is an important play that we've got to get more out of. Meaning the typical alignment by Andrews, it's a 3rd and 7. I don't have the yard line there. Forgive me for that. I would presume that it would be the negative 33. And Andrews is able to get open right to left on the over concept, something that he's run an inordinate amount of times in the last 3, 4, 5 years. It doesn't show up as often. Maybe once or twice a game is about all we're getting. So Monken's offense is versatile. Maybe sometimes the identity needs to shift more to certain guys, but there's so many playmakers on this offense that it's tough to get everybody the ball. The 3rd and 2 completion to Andrews versus zone, I thought Lamar looked really smooth here. It's the 4th play from the bottom with 27 seconds left. And then after the spike, we get it to Flowers. We're out of timeouts here, if I recall. So somewhat dangerous in terms of perhaps taking a sack. I almost wondered if we would take the points, take the field goal there with 12 seconds left, but we ran one more play, got it a little closer, and Tucker converts to make it 9-6. And then we open the second half with our 7th possession that I guess it was fool's gold, but to me we looked dominant on this drive and then the 9th possession after the interception. You had the draw from Justice Hill, which was just brilliant by Monk, and have to give him credit. Justice Hill, presumably at this point, we're still heavy pass in terms of run-pass ratio, I would guess. Then the Andrews completion, it's kind of the lofted throw. The Raiders had shifted into a 5-1 look, basically 5 guys on the line of scrimmage and 1 inside linebacker, Spillane. I felt like that put too much stress on Spillane, and I just didn't think he responded well to those when we threw the football. As you guys may know, if you watch my preview, I thought the Ravens should be throwing on 1st down, and sometimes that was definitely fruitful today. It definitely produced results. But the very next play here was Henry's just dominant run down the left sideline for 30 yards. There's a couple of different concepts they're using to get him free. The pinpole pitch worked today. He didn't get much on the ensuing play behind the puller on the 1st and goal from the 9. And then the 2nd and goal, we went unbalanced. It's basically the same touchdown, the same concept that we used against the 49ers to get Zay Flowers a touchdown. We faked the pitch, and then Flowers sneaks into the end zone. Maybe the throw is a little bit low. We convert the extra point at 16-6 to take a 10-point lead. We end up being up 23-13. I've waited a while to talk about some of these complaints. Maybe you don't have the same ones. I'm sure at this point during the premiere, you guys have already mentioned a lot of them. Here's some of mine. We got a little less than 4 minutes left. We're tied at 23. Can't show you any film, obviously, but I've rewatched it twice. Tied at 23, first play of our possession, 3:54 left to be precise. 1st and 10 from our own 30-yard line, and we've had trouble with Crosby all day when we haven't chipped him. When we started chipping him, I thought we had more success. That seems pretty obvious and pretty basic at this point. Look, the Chiefs chip a ton. There's nothing wrong with chipping and using your guys on shorter routes to kind of hold second-level defenders and then throw into some of the open windows that those shorter routes kind of free up. Nope, we go to a 5-man pass pro, which means no running back, no tight end chip, nothing. And the Raiders run the same stunt that they've run with Crosby a ton the last 2 years. Him and the D tackle are just switch rushing. Formulaic can't pass it off at all. I think Linderbaum is occupied by the nose tackle on the other side. Free rush for Crosby, sack. Whose fault is it? Well, Formulaic, our right side of the offensive line, needs to handle it better. Those guys aren't playing good. Cool, we know that. Doesn't Todd Monken know it too? Why are we not acting like it's an issue 56 minutes into the game when we've been chipping at times and been able to hold Crosby and those guys off? You can tell me if I'm wrong with that observation, but I would like to see us, if we had to do over again, chip him, which we had done many times. I'm not sure why in that point we chose not to. It was a 5-1 look by the Raiders, so it goes even one step further. Now, one of the OLBs on the other side dropped out, number 49. I forget his last name. Bowden, I think. He dropped out. It could have been a 5-man rush. My point is, with a 5-1 look, we have no one else to chip or help out at all with what, at this point, is pretty obvious, an O-line issue for the Ravens in terms of pass pro. So that's my complaint number one. I put this on Twitter too. The 3rd and goal, like I said, just over 4 minutes left, with the Raiders offense facing a 3rd and goal from the 17, leaving Stevens by himself. I think it's a questionable penalty. I think it's an even worse call from an organizational standpoint. I understand that at some point your corners have to make plays. I don't and guard people one-on-one. I don't think that that's the spot. Gardner Minshew's not going to scramble in from 17 yards out. In this case, he threw it to Davante Adams, and they were fortunate to get a DPI call that basically resulted in the tying touchdown. I think it's a big moment. Does it turn out different? I think we were falling apart anyway at that point. I think even if we hold them to a field goal, it's entirely possible that they still come back and win the game, because the Ravens seemed intent on losing this one from the mid to late 3rd quarter on. The 3rd and 1, the tight end sneak with Kolar. Yes, Kolar does actually get the first down. You have a false start on Henry, who I think was called for 2 today. We're talking about it's like 7:45 left. We're up 23-16, 3rd and 1. We've got an opportunity to get a first down, maybe retain the football, maybe close the game out, go down and get a field goal and win. His last 5 runs are 35 yards, including a touchdown and 2 first downs. It's 3rd and 1. I think we made things more complicated. I think more simple options exist than that, in my opinion. Kolar doesn't take snaps from under center. It worked out from a functional standpoint, gaining the first down, even though it got called back for penalty. You may disagree. You may say, well, Coach Henry shouldn't false start. How often is Henry in that alignment? Not that often. He did get called for 2 today, though, so maybe it's a Derrick Henry issue. The 2 failed challenges by Coach Harbaugh, one of them was an incompletion to Zay Flowers for our offense, obviously. Like 2:40 left in the 2nd quarter up the right side. I don't think that one's winnable. I think you can look at it on the screen one time and know, okay, they're not going to overturn that. There's not enough evidence to overturn it. And then the other one when Davante Adams got both feet down, stretching, leaning, diving, whatever, along the left sideline, 30-yard catch. I think that was 4th quarter, maybe 3rd. You guys can let me know in the comment section. I didn't think that was a winnable challenge either. I don't know who's advising him to do those things. So when I say mismanagement, decision-making from the coaching staff, that's what I'm talking about when I include Coach Harbaugh. The 3rd and 8 pass play to Aguilar, I've kind of already covered that. Tucker misses it 56 yards. At this point, if you're not in agreement with me, that's fine. But what's the alternative? Continue to set Tucker up for 56-yard field goals? Here's the crazy thing, and so I forget who it was said this in our Discord. We used to not play for Tucker. It was crazy because and then we'd send him out there for a 58-yarder and he'd bang it through there. But now we're less reliable and we won't play to him. We won't set him up. To me, it's kind of like if your guy's a great 18-foot jump shooter in basketball, you're going to create offensive sets and plays that get him an open 18-footer. And if you're creating offensive plays for a great mid-range, I guess 18-foot is mid-range at this point, and he's consistently getting 24-footers and not making them, you need to change your design of your offense. And so I think that's one of the points that I'm trying to make. We did finish trading field goals and go up 9-6, but I think that a professional football team should have a better procedure for recognizing when someone's struggling from a particular range, and we should try to set them up for more high percentage opportunities. Just my opinion. The interception, I think we're up 16-6. It's the 2nd possession of the 3rd quarter. It's a nice play by Ja'Cory Bennett. It's a snag concept, but that's my point. The motion from Flowers across is entirely predictable when Rashad Bateman is being motioned to. So Flowers left to right motion for the offense, running at Bateman, horizontal or parallel to the line of scrimmage, and Bateman runs a snag. It's a predictable route concept. And I wonder if that predictability kind of adds to the reaction of the defense and allows them to be closer in proximity, for, number one, for the pass defense by Bennett. I think he got a hand on it or a finger on it. And then number 2, the interception by Spillane. I think game management continues to be an issue. The one particularly at the end of the 2nd quarter, you may not agree. You may have other factors that you blame. Hey, Rashad Bateman's got to catch that football. Hey, Derrick Henry can't false start. Our right side of our offensive line has to be better. All of those things may be true, there's still ways as a coaching staff to mitigate some of those issues. And when you're up by 10 or up by 7, be able to finish out the game and go 1-1 against, I think it's a good Raiders team. I don't think they're going to win 10 football games this year. Just not a very good football team in Baltimore right now. Penalties were an issue, some of them questionable. Like I said, I think we left things open for the Raiders, and we left things open for the refs to punish us, and they did. It reminds me of some of the leads that we've blown. I think we've blown 9 since Harbaugh's been the head coach, which is more than any franchise. I'm talking about 10-point leads in the second half. So we're talking about an issue that Harbaugh, Monken, Zach Orr, and Lamar have to figure out a way to mitigate and handle and solve. You guys let me know what you think of some of my thoughts there at the end and my complaints about how this loss happened to drop us to 0-2, facing a difficult schedule the next 3 weeks. I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this reaction, well, no one's going to enjoy this reaction video. If you think other Ravens fans would like to hear what I have to say about it, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.